Alan Jackson says, "Hold my JMO and Ginger," as he tells Boston25's Ted Daniel what he really thinks of Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan and the tone-deaf statement he released the other day. Hello, and welcome back, roommates, to another titillating edition of Alexasrewm, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, and we are not law enforcement. We are just people. People who have opinions about all things going on in the post-verdict follow-up of Season 2 of the Karen Reed trial, including this statement that comes hot off the heels of the jury foreman making his first on-camera appearance earlier today on the Today Show, which we're going to get into in just a bit. Now, this isn't the first time that we're actually hearing from Alan Jackson. We actually heard from him first last week on Howie Carr, where he called out ADA McLaughlin and Beverly Canola Oil for some of the seemingly bizarre rulings she made in both trials.
And I've got example after example after example of the Judge Cannoni making very bizarre rulings that just did benefit the Commonwealth over the defense. And they're myriad. Or McLaughlin was doing, who was writing all the papers, the abusive process, trying to keep all of our witnesses out of the courtroom. Literally, they spent hundreds and hundreds of hours filing motions, trying to keep our witnesses away from the jurors.
So I actually posted a video. If you want to check out the full video with my commentary, I'll include that in my description box below, but you can also listen to it without me blabbering off my gob as well. That link is also going to be posted in the description box. But we heard from, or didn't hear from, Hank Brennan until yesterday, where he hid behind a written statement where he essentially said, "It's everybody else's fault but mine. The jury got it wrong. We will never be able to get justice for John O'Keefe because all of the evidence pointed to one person and one person only." It's like saying your vote doesn't matter in the elections, right? What's the point of voting if it doesn't really matter anyways? If you're voicing your opinion doesn't really matter in the end of it. Only that's not how our judicial system is set up, Hanklin. Because the judicial system was designed that we would be judged by a jury of our peers, not by the powers that be. It's your job to make sure that the case you are coming forth with and the evidence that you are providing the jury of our peers is strong enough beyond a reasonable doubt, and in Massachusetts, as well as to a moral certainty, it will prove the defendant is guilty. And as we've heard, the 3 or 4 jurors that have come forward now, it wasn't. In fact, they're all pretty much echoing the same sentiment of, we don't even think that a collision occurred. Which, as Howie Carr stated during his interview with Alan Jackson last week, there were thousands of pages provided by the FBI to both the Commonwealth and the defense, stating, we don't think Karen Reed did this. In fact, we spent, $500,000 to test Trooper Paul, his hypothesis, his theory. And our guys say, doesn't look like any kind of collision occurred, which we heard during testimony throughout the trial. So now here we are with Alan Jackson, not to be confused with country music star Alan Jackson, clapping back, no chaser needed. Alan Jackson says, quote, "The jury has spoken." I like how he used the same words that meatball used, because this is where his statement that he released post-verdict started and ended. The jury has spoken. But Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, in an egregious breach of prosecutorial ethics, has tried to publicly shame and discredit that very jury. Again, it's like saying your vote in the election doesn't matter. Right? Who cares what the jury said? Karen Reed is still guilty beyond sin, and this is the same rhetoric that Julie Grift, Blowout Barbie, likes to push on court TV. And that's one thing for the mainstream media to say, well, it's my opinion, and this is the narrative that I want to roll with. Fine. But even then, in my opinion, it's your responsibility when you have a major platform like that, and you're somebody who comes from a background of law, to follow the same level of professionalism and show the same level of respect to the court, to the jury, to the judicial process. That every defendant is to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Despite what your own feelings are, you want to have those conversations at home with your spouse, with your friends and family? Fine. But to go on air and to make a public statement like this, it is egregious. For him to attempt to supplant his personal views for that of the jury is a desperate attempt to save face in the wake of a unanimous rejection of the prosecution's case. Exactly, you didn't have to take this case, buddy boy. You knew the level of attention you would get, and in my opinion, that's probably half the reason why you decided to try this case. When every other prosecutor in that DA's office, aside from Lunchbox, turned it down, allegedly, according to that Vanity Fair article. Now, those are some people I would love to hear from. The rules of professional conduct are clear. A prosector should support the legitimacy of the justice system and promote public confidence in its operations. Openly attacking a jury's verdict because he disagrees with it undermines that centuries-old edict. Mr. Brennan claims that his investigation was thorough. If that were true, the Commonwealth would have uncovered what we, the defense, uncovered. Hidden exculpatory evidence, lies, and perjury by the Commonwealth's own witnesses. I mean, yeah, you have false memories, right? Fireside chats with Boston police commissioners, female rookies. Kerry Roberts lying to the grand jury. Jen McCabe lying to the FBI. Choco Chip planting evidence, which has pretty much been proven based on Sergeant Barros's testimony. Now, he just had an interview with a content creator called Girl with Sunglasses. I was actually going to create a video on that first before this news broke, but I think I'm going to create that video tomorrow. Just sum it up, and I'm paraphrasing here, but according to Sergeant Barros, Lally never showed him the photo that we've now all seen from the Sally Port. Because what Barros had seen versus what was displayed in the photo, according to Choco Chip and Bukwaki, the tail light looked cracked. Not smashed out or damaged. It didn't fit. The evidence didn't fit what Lally wanted him to say. Allegedly. So more on that later, but Cops covering for other cops. Right? Paul Gallagher. Paul Bunyan. His buddy Kelleher. Whatever happened to that Ring camera video? Or Allo, or whatever system he used. A biased and corrupt lead investigator with personal ties to witnesses, and dare I say, Beverly canola oil as well too. Her brother played defense for slop shop owner Chris Albert back in the 90s for his hit and run. That should have been enough alone to recuse herself, in my opinion, from ever presiding over this case, amongst other allegations that have been made. But, you know, from what we've seen, we haven't seen her in any wedding photo. Bribery, right? Julie Albert telling Courtney Proctor of, oh, we should buy Chip a present. He's been so good to us, so good. And inculpatory and suspicious conduct by myriad witnesses. The only job of an ethical prosecutor is to seek the truth in a just and fair manner. The Commonwealth fell wildly short of that responsibility, and dare I say, for a wildly long time. Theirs was not an effort to find justice for John O'Keefe. Rather, it was a personal vendetta against Karen Read by DA Michael Morrissey and his hand-picked prosecutors, and it cost the people of Norfolk County millions of dollars. I mean, they could have saved a whole lot of money by just having Trooper Paul back on the stand. I think he would have performed a whole lot better than Judd Apatow. The guy who thinks it's necessary for an experiment to dress up as the unaliving victim. But just to back it up real quick, theirs was not an effort to find justice for John O'Keefe. Rather, it was a personal vendetta against Karen Read by D.A. Morrissey. And that's the way it's been since day one. I mean, yesterday in my video too, if you go back to that August 2023 video, some like to call it the hostage video, where he repeats on loop, Colin was not in the house, and stop harassing all of these witnesses. The evidence proves that Karen Read is evil and a shrill woman who murdered Boston police officer John O'Keefe. But by you doing that, Meatball, how are you allowing the judicial process to play out? You're essentially saying that anytime we arrest anyone ever and indict them with charges on anything ever, that means they're guilty. They're the scum of the earth. And nothing that they say, no matter what case they present in court, should not be believed. Take the word of witnesses. Witnesses who weren't interviewed, a lot of them, for months, even a year and change at a time. Take their word for it, because they're the good guy. We're the good guys. Right? You can trust us. I don't think so. Karen Read was lucky that she had the team that she had, because honestly, if this was, and I know this has been said by a lot of different people, but under very different circumstances. For all we know, she could be behind bars right now, which is incredibly sad and disappointing. Because I'm even seeing it right now in the Koberger case. And I know little to next to nothing in regards to that case. But you can believe in justice for the victims of all of these heinous crimes, but also believe in the presumption of innocence. And that's the way that I'm looking at everything. By withholding the fact that the FBI was investigating, interviewing these witnesses that you're supposed to take their word for. But you can't even know the whole truth, not even half the truth. It is amazing that we're here where we are today. The fact is, Karen Read is factually innocent. This case never should have gone to trial in the first place. This case is a stark reminder that there has been a complete breakdown in what is supposed to be our justice system. Those in power are more interested in protecting themselves than the citizens that they are sworn to protect. Cheesy banana. Commonwealth's defamatory public comments ring hollow to the very constituents they are supposed to serve. It is now crystal clear that disgraced DA Michael Morrissey has no interest in actually seeking justice for John O'Keefe by identifying and prosecuting the real killer or killers. Because again, they have all the same information that the defense has. Commonwealth would rather simply condemn this jury and its fair and lawful verdict. So, there's that. A gripped throat response from Alan Jackson. Shout out to Karen Read Updates on the Twitter X's for posting that statement and extracting that from Boston25. So I'm sure there will be a lot of people talking about that over the next 24 hours, but now I want to jump to the jury foreman who made a statement earlier today, who did an incredible job doing what you're supposed to do as a juror and having a basic fundamental understanding of what your role is as a juror and as a foreman. It's like night and day between this season and last season. So here we go.
This morning, the special prosecutor is breaking his silence, and now the jury foreman is about to share what it was like leading the deliberations in his first live interview. We'll speak.
Also, how is it breaking your silence? What are you breaking your silence about? You're representing the Norfolk County DA's office. Not for nothing, but it's kind of expected for you to make a statement. Breaking your silence would be if Karen Read did a sit-down interview with somebody. That would be breaking her silence. Nicholas Barrows hopping on with content creator Girl with Sunglasses yesterday and sharing the fact that Lally being a devious little lunchbox. That's breaking your silence. So I don't understand that, but here we go.
Can you just take us into this jury room and how the jury came to the conclusion it did?
Collectively together, we looked at all the evidence that we was presented with, and we made our decision off of that. We didn't, at first, some had their own personal opinions on what the case should be or whatever, and was trying to go down a personal feelings and stuff like that, and we had to stick to what evidence we had in front of us and go with that. So it was more or less just trying to figure out that part. And it took us a couple of days to really get the gears going, but when we did, it was smooth trails after that.
Sir,
I mean, you don't have to like Karen Reed to not think that she's a cold-blooded unaliver. Like, you could just say, look, you don't have to like her. I don't like Taylor Swift. Sorry if that's blasphemy for some of you, but I don't like her music, generally speaking. I think her older catalog was 10 times better than the bubblegum crap that she's producing today, in my opinion. But I acknowledge she's very talented. I'm not going to go so far and say, oh, she's not talented. You don't have to like Karen Reed to still think she's innocent. Which, unfortunately, a lot of people online and the Julie Griffs of the world let their own personal feelings towards Karen, for whatever reason, drive what they think should have happened.
sir, to that point, the evidence, was there a singular piece of evidence that seemed to move the majority of the jurors in the room, or were there multiple pieces?
It just was. It was the whole case altogether, all the pieces, testimony, witnesses, and it just a lot together. And people had questions. We used the evidence to answer their questions, and we didn't try to go down these rabbit holes where we're just getting lost in what all these other things that was thrown at us in court or whatever, and we just had to lock down and figure it out through the evidence.
That's what Bo Tyrani calls distractors, right? But he meant that from season 1 in regards to the third-party culprit defense that the defense had presented. It's interesting to see the stark difference, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I really think that the defense's strategy going into this trial and really just letting the science tell the story in conjuncture with the data and poking holes in the ever-evolving timeline that the Commonwealth kept shifting and drifting around. I really believe that made all the more difference.
I asked one of your other fellow jurors this question. It's a very fine distinction. In your opinion, is Karen Reed innocent? She didn't do this? Or is it just that the prosecutors did not put on enough evidence to convict?
Karen Reed is innocent, and she didn't do this crime. No one could prove that she did this crime, so I looked at her from day one as an innocent woman that needed to be proven guilty, and I don't think any of that was shown in this process.
Sir,
and that's what every single jury should go in thinking. She is innocent. It's not my job to play detective, and he's going to follow up with this stupid question. Stupid question about who do you think did do with it. It's not his job to figure that out. He doesn't need to play detective. And that was the problem with last season's jury. Is they all thought they had to make fetch happen, and it didn't need to happen. If it didn't happen, it's not up to you. It's just to say, hey, this is the steaming pile of poo-poo that you have put in front of me, and you're trying to tell me it's chicken, but all I'm smelling and all I'm seeing is Chloe Albert's revenge. Rest in pepperoni.
Sir, to that point, if she didn't do it, who did?
That's not my job. So, I mean, something did happen to Mr. O'Keefe, and it's foul play or whatever you want to say, but there was no evidence to even, through multiple witnesses and testimony by his autopsy and everything, there was still no one said to solid evidence that there was a collision or he got hit by a car.
So you don't think she actually hit him with the...
everybody...
You don't think she hit him with the car at all?
No, go ahead.
You don't think she hit him with the car at all?
No. No, I don't. Not with the evidence that was put in front of me and what we heard over everything. No, I don't.
You hear that? Based on everything I heard, and I believe Juror 11 was the one to say that he was the guy who didn't take any notes too. Which, for a lot of people at the time, were like, oh, the jury foreman didn't take any notes. He must not, like, give a duck. He must not be paying attention. But it seemed like, from if I'm recalling correctly, she had said he remembered everything. Like, he was just absorbing all of it in, and he could recall certain dates, certain times, certain pieces of evidence and information that some of us who did take notes couldn't remember, which is incredibly impressive. And speaks to the level of intelligence this man has. But that's the whole case summed up into one sentence. If you do not believe a collision happened, then no crime was committed by Karen Reed. Then we don't know, as Hank Brennan stated in his closing arguments, we don't know what happened. Who cares? We care. His niece and nephew, they care. Karen Reed, she cares. The public, the people who are invested in this case, we care. And the Massachusetts State Police failed him. Canton Police failed him. They did not conduct a thorough investigation. They didn't do everything humanly possible to find out, to suss out what might really have happened. And we might never know because of how this investigation was botched from day one. And evidence was pretty much proven to have been planted by the lead investigator, the former customer service representative.
Were you aware of just how high profile this case was? There were throngs of people outside in front of the courthouse. I know the jury officers, kept you away from that, but there was a big scream at the end when the verdict was read that was audible in the courtroom. How much did you know about that, and how much, if anything, did that have to do with your process, your deliberations?
I was just going to go with whatever evidence showed us. If it was finding her guilty or finding her not guilty, and we were just going to go with the evidence. And at the end of the day, when I came in on Monday, I established to everyone. I just want everyone to feel like they're heard 100%. Their thoughts, their process is being heard also in that process. And everyone felt at the end of the deliberations that everyone felt good about the decision that we all collectively came together with.
And this is the garbage that Julie Grant was spewing off yesterday on her show, is saying, oh, well, the pink people invaded the courtroom. Right? But now we've heard from not one, but at least two jurors. And I believe Juror 11, Paula Prado, also said this too. Is that whatever was going on outside didn't affect us. We're going to sit long and hard and shut the noise out and do what we think is the right thing to do. Lead with our gut. Ask great questions. They asked very, very good questions. And that's what happened. They came out with a not guilty verdict. So no, the jury pool wasn't tainted. And if that was any concern, to the DA, they could have requested a change of venue. I said this in my video yesterday. You could have requested a change of venue. You decided to retry her on the same indictments that she was acquitted on the first time around. What did you think was going to happen? That the media was just going to shut up? That the people whose community this is taking place in, who are directly affected by the actions of that leadership, are going to shut up? No! They're going to scream louder. The loud minority. And I don't know if you remember, but Hank Brennan agreed to the same jurors to sit on the jury pool as Alan Jackson. If he had any sniffling of a juror potentially lying about anything, don't you think he would have brought that to the court's attention? He was very quick to shut down every single expert witness the defense tried to call. Michael Easter being probably the biggest one. So don't you think if there was juror misconduct or any hint or hankling of a juror potentially lying on the jury form, he would have filed a motion for something like that? He would have requested a juror of voir dire? I mean, we had that from the Ashley Benefield case. So if Hanklin doesn't think that, and he's not necessarily crying jury tampering or jury pool tainting, then why is that the headline that mainstream media wants to roll with? Why is that the narrative?
So, in the end, there is still a mother who lost her son, Officer O'Keefe. What do you think justice would look like for the O'Keefe family?
Someone looking into it further, but looking into it further with the evidence that you already have, and then you finally find a possible person. There's going to be the same complications of all this other stipulations of the evidence and everything else to go along with it. So it's just hard. And to put a mother through that, and a father and a brother and a whole family through that again it's a lot. Even me being there for 8 weeks and 9, and just sitting and watching the videos and seeing the tape and everything, it's a lot to see your loved one go through that. So
Yes.
I'll link this in my description box below if you want to listen to this interview without my gob flailing about. But what a great interview. What a smart and intelligent man. And I think it was Uncivil Law that brought this up earlier, is, even if they did, right, by the grace of God, decide to actually try to investigate and find out who is really responsible for this, and the Commonwealth prosecuted this person, the defense already essentially has their case. Look at trial 1 and 2 of the Karen Reed case. Can you really trust Michael Proctor, Yuri Buchanan, Brian Tully, soccer mom Jennifer McCabe, Kerry Roberts, who admitted to lying to the grand jury? And the list goes on and on and on and on. This has been botched from day one because they wanted to pin it on the girl. That was more important to them than conducting a thorough investigation into the death of a fellow police officer. The feds had to step in with that, just like they did with the Sandra Birchmore case, which is a whole disgusting pile of poop in itself. When are you going to take accountability? When are you going to actually make real change? And give your community something to believe in? Because right now you all have the same attitude Urine Bukwacki had on the stand as, I don't care. Do you even care? That's the saddest thing of it all. That being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.